Howdy everybody, Steve the Amateur Historian. How are you doing during these quarantine days? I'm coming back to you to bring you another goofy story while trapped indoors. I'm coming to you from the movie room where I live, hence the old school theatrical seating. I know I've done videos in here before, so if you watch my channel regularly, you already know about this room. It's just, it doesn't get used a lot, so I sometimes will use it to do like random talking, vlogging videos or whatever. And again, trying to not go out quite as much because the outdoor allergies mixed with the indoor allergies are just on my eyes. Especially this time of the year. My peak allergies are March and April. So, there you go. And today's story is another one. I love Offbeat Oregon History's website. If you want to read some very interesting tidbits about Oregon history, you can go there. They have articles dating back almost a decade, and pretty much it seems like they post an article like pretty much every week there's something new that's been posted. And a lot of things that I've talked about I've stumbled onto were first discovered on their website. What is this? What is this thing? Just down. It's still annoying me. Anyway. So anyway, hair unbothered. So today's story I originally found in a piece written on Offbeat Oregon History site, and then, did a little research beyond that myself because I'd never heard of this before, never heard of this particular school, never heard of this story, and I thought this is very interesting, especially when you think about how easy it is to get in trouble nowadays when you run a college. And you think about, there was all that drama with all those celebrities paying off to get their kids into school, and just, wrongdoing in college is so much easier caught nowadays. So there's a lot of things that, sketchy stuff happens, especially when you're higher ups in college all the time. But there's lots of things that people just aren't going to do, or there's lots of things that people are going to see the worth of what they're going to do to see whether it's worth the risk. But back in the good old days, people just did what they frickin' did. And that brings us the story of Collumbia College. Now, I'm not talking about Columbia, the Ivy League school. I'm talking about Collumbia College, a little school that barely even had a building when it first opened. Collumbia College, I believe, is I actually researched all colleges that have ever existed in Oregon, ones that do still exist and ones that don't. And I think Collumbia College would be like the 7th oldest college ever founded in Oregon, and Willamette University is the only one that still exists that's actually predates this college, because Willamette goes back to the 1840s. Collumbia College was founded in Eugene, which, Eugene's a pretty good sized city in Portland in Oregon now, but back then there was only a couple hundred people. In fact, I think when Collumbia College opened in 1856, almost a third of the town's population were just students. It actually boomed the population a little bit because, when they first opened, there was 50 students, and then there was 100, and then there was 150, and it grew. It blossomed really quickly, probably because there wasn't really a lot of colleges around at that time, so people's options were limited. And just Collumbia College opened with a lot of, it seemed, momentum and positivity, and it seemed like it was going to be a success, and it was going to be around for a long time to come. And again, this is 20 years before University of Oregon opened in Eugene. However, there was kind of one big problem that kind of constantly dogged this college for its short existence and played a part in it pretty much crumbling apart within a couple of years, and that was the issue of slavery. Mind you, it's the 1850s, so this is before Oregon didn't become a state till 1859, so This is still Oregon territory at that time, and even though it was technically north in terms of location, it was still, like a lot of places, there were still a lot of people that were pro-slavery at that time. And that was a place of contention with this college because it was split almost right down the middle between abolitionists who wanted slavery gone and people who were pro-slavery. And they were constantly butting heads. It didn't matter what they were majoring in, didn't matter what classes they were taking, didn't matter where they came from. It was all about whether you supported slavery or not. And the first president of the, head person of the college was a guy named Enoch Henderson, who was an abolitionist. And so in the early days of the college, when it first started, he kind of, his side had a little bit of that advantage, but the pro-slavery people were very aggressive. Think about the kind of people that support something like slavery, kind of like, certain people we can think of today who are out of their damn minds. So the school opens in the fall of 1856, and in the first week of classes, the building burns down. The president, Enoch Henderson, who again is an abolitionist, immediately claims that it's an arson that had been done by somebody who was pro-slavery, or possibly a student or a group of students that went to the college that were pro-slavery, who decided it would be a smart idea to burn down the building that they were using to go to school at. They never really figured out exactly what caused that fire. Further back you go, it was amazing how easy it was for buildings to just burn down left and right back in the day. So they actually ended up having to rent out a house. They rented out a house in Eugene to resume classes while they tried to build a new building. So fast forwarding ahead, it's early fall 1857. The students have made it through their first year of school, for better or for worse, and while they're doing classes elsewhere, a new building is built. So when college classes start up again in October of 57, they have a new college to have classes in. And then by February 1858, I think less than 5 months later, school building burned down again. Again, it was believed, at least by the abolitionist side, that it was arson, and by this point the butting of heads between pro-slavery and anti-slavery was only growing, it was only blossoming. It was open confrontation on both sides, but the pro-slavery side was being more aggressive about it, and they became so hostile and so aggressive that ultimately by 1859, Enoch Henderson resigned. He literally just couldn't deal. And he eventually sued the school in the aftermath for, what happened and how he left and what he was put through in that time. But his departure from the school essentially allowed the pro-slavery side of the student populace to essentially just completely take over the college and just mow down the anti-slavery side of things. So of course the college gets a new president, a guy that I don't know what his first name was. I only saw him as M. Ryan. This guy takes Henderson's place as the president of the school, and this guy is openly, boisterously pro-slavery. Almost more so than his students that, were on that side. So that pushes the college in even more of a pro-slavery direction. And Ryan was so vigilant about his perspective that slavery was right and just that he would even write and have pieces he wrote published in, publications that supported that kind of thing. Well, there was a student at Collumbia named H.R. Kincaid who was part of the abolitionist side, and he was also writing pieces, and they were getting published in a local publication. So Ryan gets pissed because there's a student going to his school that's not only writing, against what he personally believes, but he's getting them published in this publication. Who would publish this garbage? So it's June 1860. So 57, 58, 59, 60. The fourth year of Collumbia College has just finished. And M. Ryan is pissed, And he decides, because again, people who ran colleges, especially ones out in the middle of the sticks, during that time thought pretty differently than the way people think today. He decided he was going to go to where the paper was published, and he was going to shoot dead in cold blood the editor of the publication that Kincaid was getting his pieces published in. The editor, the head guy that he was going to shoot was a guy named B.J. Pengra. I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. Pengra was how his last name was spelled. B.J. Pengra. So he shows up to shoot Pengra. He gets one shot off, misses Pengra, and Pengra, sees what's happening and immediately leaps on Ryan, slams him to the ground, and starts choking him to death. And literally probably would have killed him if there weren't bystanders around who came and pulled him off. So Ryan, it seems, kind of came in there half-cocked in more ways than one, and literally got his ass beat in this battle. And, Pengra, obviously seeing that this guy not only assaulted him, but also was one of these douchebag pro-slavery types, he filed charges against Ryan. And Ryan, in turn, because he was a piece of crap, he jumped bail on the assault charge and literally split town, just deserted things. Because back in the 1850s, 1860s, you could just split town and never get found. That could actually happen back in those days. It's a lot harder to do that these days. So he split bail and just split town. So suddenly the college, once again, had no president. They were on the rocks. I'm sure this incident didn't help resolve complications between the students who were this way and the students that were that way. And this college actually kind of somehow managed to carry on for a while without any real leadership, but they ultimately had to file for bankruptcy due to the lawsuit that Enoch Henderson took out against them. So the guy that was instrumental in founding this college, he was its first president, he was one of the main instrumental pieces in having it kind of destroyed. And it's probably for the better that the school had to close when they did, because they were, by this point, they built their third building, because two have already been burned down. And they moved into their new building before the construction wasn't even fully complete, but I guess they thought it was complete enough that they could go in there and kind of make it work for a while. And there were reports from students. I wrote it down because it already seemed like there was a curse on the college buildings of Collumbia College, because two of them had burnt down. And when the students moved in, they said that it just was not stable, and had they stayed there longer and had it not been finished, something could have happened, and a major weather event could have possibly taken the building down with students inside. Fortunately, the other two buildings that burned down, nobody was in them when they burned down, which makes me think even more that it was possibly arson. They waited till nobody was around to see anything and then set them on fire. But we still don't know for certain. But yeah, there was reports from students when they were in this unfinished building that there was a storm that came through town, and they could literally feel the building shake. The whole building shook, and there was a rattling, and it was just like they just had a tin roof. It seemed like they put no effort into putting this building together, and the tin roof just ripped right off the top of it. Like, this building was not in good condition to start handling people, particularly students, young people who perceivably had their whole lives ahead of them. So it's probably good that the college did file for bankruptcy and close when they did, because who knows what would have happened to that third building. That being said, I don't know exactly what did happen to that third building, if it was finished and used for something else, or if they just said, to hell with it, this place is cursed, and burn that thing down too. I really don't know. And that's the story of Collumbia College, a school that started seemingly with high hopes and got completely destroyed because of the whole argument about slavery. And it's interesting because right around the time that the school closed down is when the Civil War began. So there's a little comparable time period history for you. It's all right though. The anti-slavery side won in the end. So thank you so much for watching today's video from a quarantine within a quarantine, or so it seems. And as always, remember to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Hit up my Patreon. And stay safe and don't be stupid in these times. Until next time, this has been Steve, the Amateur Historian.